Well, on paper it's David Shearer, and it's interesting that he's talking about a new style of politics which doesn't involve what he called gotcha politics, so sort of the game playing and the sort of I've got to score all the wins type approach. I think that's very noble, I think it's very admirable. Whether he's going to be able to achieve it in an environment where Russell Norman and Winston Peters are equally deluded in their view that they're the real leader of the opposition, that they're the ones with the momentum on their sides, I think is highly debatable. But David Shearer is the leader of the opposition, and his challenge as that person is to now stamp his authority on those disparate forces and to try and wield them into some effective force. If he can do that, then he's got a very strong future. If he can't do that, then he risks just becoming another also-ran. Some people seem to be suggesting that because I'm now the key vote in this, that somehow that changes the whole ball game in terms of what my position and United Future's position should be. As far as I'm concerned, it's very simple. We gave a commitment pre-election that we would support the energy companies in Air New Zealand with the provisos of certain limits on the level of shareholding. We got an agreement in the confidence and supply agreement that that would happen, so that no more than 49%, no more than 10% to any individual entity, and that would be in the law. And that's what we're honouring. The fact that my vote is now the critical vote doesn't change anything in that respect. For me, it's about integrity. It's about having said, here's what we're going to do, this is what we believe, this is what we are going to do. And if that hangs on my vote, so be it. But I don't accept the argument that says somehow because the numbers have shifted, your vote is now so critical that you've got to shift your pre-announced, pre-agreed, consistent position to accommodate that. Ain't going to be that way, because that's actually a breach of faith. Not entirely clear about the timetable, but I think it's sooner rather than later. I think it's likely to be in the next couple of months, and I think once it's passed, then the issue becomes the timing of any potential sale, whether the full 49% is actually up for sale at any one time, whether all are sold or whether some are sold. And I think really that's a matter that is an issue the Cabinet will decide based on market conditions at the time. But it doesn't automatically follow, in my view, that having passed the legislation in the first half of this year, there's a headlong rush to sale for everything by the end of the year. It's just not going to happen that way. The trouble with Waitangi Day is it can never be a credible national day for all New Zealanders while the shenanigans and the protests are part of it. I find it bizarre that people say that we're the only country in the world that allows protests on our national day, as though that's some sort of mark of pride. Our national day is the day we celebrate the instinctive stake we all have in being part of this country, whatever our background or our origin. And my view has always been, if we cannot make Waitangi Day work as that day of national unity and that day of national symbolism, then we need to look to an alternative. And frankly, the events at Waitangi this year were simply one more repetition of all of those things over the years that are leading increasing numbers of people to say, forget the whole thing, I'm just going to the beach. Now, just on a very local issue, I'm becoming increasingly aware and concerned about aspects of the review being undertaken by the Greater Wellington Regional Council of bus services in Wellington. On the face of it, it looks like a very rational change to rationalise routes, times and services. But I'm aware that particularly in the northern suburbs, the area that I represent, there are likely to be some quite severe implications for off-peak services, particularly for the people of Churton Park, who may well find their off-peak services reduced, also for people in the Woodridge, Baylands and Paparangi areas. And there's also a risk that in increasing use of hubbing, in other words linking services through to the Johnsonville railhead, we're going to run into some problems of people having to change from bus to train and back and forward and so forth, which I don't think will be very positive. So I'm keeping a close eye on that. I've met with the CEO of the Newlands Bus Company to talk about it, and obviously I'm following some of the public discussion that's taking place. Good news on the transport front though, finally the new Waitangi trains will be on the Johnsonville line from the 19th of March, and that's been a long campaign, and for someone like me who's been involved in various campaigns to save the Johnsonville line for nearly 30 years, that's going to be a day to really savour, and I'm looking forward to that immensely.